I decided to record a quick video to show you one of my grids that is right now live, right? So it's still running. And this is a bit of an unusual grid. It will illustrate one of the extremes of, setting up a grid algo. Those of you who have watched my videos on how to stop a grid or one of the reviews of the actual grid that I've been running, remember that one of the main parameters of the grid is the number of levels in between your upper and lower level. Basically, the closeness between them, or in other words, how tight or loose your grid are, how close the levels of your grid are to each other. And obviously, that's one of the parameters that has a couple of trade-offs, having a tight grid and a loose grid, which are work in some situations are good or bad. And as you probably remember, I usually say that you're looking for some kind of a golden Goldilocks zone, or some sweet spot, right? Somewhere in the middle. The grid is that is not too tight, but also is not too loose. It's what that does it mean? It differs from instrument to instrument, and given the volatility of the instrument. But anyway, so today we're looking at an extreme grid. It's a grid that is run on SHIB USDT perpetual swap on OKX, and the interesting thing about this grid is that it is as tight as it can be. Meaning what? Look, we're looking now at the 15-second candles. Let me double click here so it will enlarge or zoom in. So look, if you look close enough, you can notice that my grids are placed on each price step of the instrument. That's a very unusual. So it's tight. This is as tight as it gets. So there is no even theoretical way to put the grids closer, or put their orders on the exchange closer to each other. So right. So if you see here, whenever the price changes, right, it goes exactly from one grid to another. So it always fluctuates between grid levels. What does it mean, or what should it lead to? Theoretically, it should lead to the effect that with every price change that occurs in the exchange, one of the grid orders will be executed. And that's pretty much what happens, with the rare exception of when on the first level of the order book there is a lot of liquidity there, and sometimes, as you can see here, price can fluctuate between the two levels a couple of times before the level one of the order book gets eaten, so to say, and your order is executed. But most of the times, whenever the price changes, fluctuates between the levels, with each tick of the price, one of the orders executes. That's once again, that's the tightest grid possible. In most of the cases, it's not even feasible to set up that grid in such a way. Well, it's possible theoretically, of course, on any instrument. It's just there most often the price steps are too close to each other for grids to make money on any exchange, unless we're running a grid on an exchange that gives you rebates for maker fees, such as, I don't know, of the ones which are still left in the market. With the few ones, I think only BitMEX and Femex are two exchanges that give you rebates on on maker fees. And a couple of the exchanges, once you get to some kind of second or third tier, or you look up some of their tokens, you get the rebates. For example, I think FTX has this program. If you look enough FTT there, then you get the rebates. Other than that, uh, for the vast majority of the instrument on any exchange, the price steps are too close to set up a grid on each of them, because you'll be losing on the fees more than on trading fees or exchange commissions, more than you'll be making on the price difference between each level. SHIB USDT on OKX is one of those rare exceptions. It's an instrument where if you put the grid on with with the orders on each price step, you still going to be making some positive P&L. So it's not large. Let me check what is here. So here P&L per level is about 0.05%. It's not a lot at all. As you can see here, I mean, on one level, the order size is around 350 USDT. So for those 350 USDT, you'll be making just P&L of, basically that's 15 cents, I think. Yeah, something like 15 cents, right? On $350, you'll be making 50 cents. That's a very small amount, but it's still positive. And theoretically, this grid is a perfect testing ground to see whether it would make sense to set up such a grid. And might be the case that this grid is going to be more profitable than the loser grid. So again, the closer your price levels are or grid levels are, the more the amount of trades per minute or per amount of time the grid makes. So theoretically, even though each P&L of each level is minuscule, maybe it will be compensated by the sheer amount or sheer vast majority of the sheer amount of their orders executed per minute, and maybe it's going to be more profitable than the loser grid. Let's check. So what we have here, so this grid has been running for around 7 hours now. It's been trading like crazy. I mean, those 7 hours it closed 1,200 orders. That's a lot. That's a lot. We're looking at 15 seconds candles now. As you can see, I mean, it trades almost each candle. There are a couple of candles that were, there were a couple of orders during one candle here. 3 orders in 15 seconds, two, 3. There was a time of higher volatility when there were like for a couple of minutes there were 5 or 10 orders per minute executed. Let's look at the 5-minute candles. Maybe it will give you a better understanding how this grid has been performing. You see, it's been in range most of those 7 hours, and when it's been in range, I mean, it was this didn't download yet, but it has been trading like crazy. So look, it's trading like crazy, right? So once again, 1,200 orders in 7 hours. What about P&L? I mean, it's been trading a lot of small P&Ls here, right? So there is amount of closed orders, so you more or less make money on each second order, so every second order, so 600 times you got some small P&L. What we've got here is the realized P&L of 0.32%. Again, it's a levered P&L, so it's P&L of a leveraged grid. As always, I used 20x leverage mostly for consistency in my videos. So if you multiplied it by 20, so what you get is around 6%, right? I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but multiplied by 10 is 3%, and then by 2, so it's around 6%. I mean, 6% in 7 hours, it's still not bad. If you look at the APY or annual projected yield, it's around 700%. So at this rate, I mean, it made around $50 in those 7 hours. If it will run at such a rate in a year, theoretically, it'd make me 124 grand. That probably wouldn't, probably most likely won't happen, right? It will get out of the range, so I'll stop it beforehand. But it gives you a feel of how very tight grid on a rather volatile instrument, which is SHIB is, right? So SHIB, it's one of the biased coins and one of the most volatile instruments on the market. So even that, with that volatility and with the orders placed at every grid, and with over 1,000 orders per in 7 hours, still made just around 6%. Is that a lot? For comparison, you can check my other video. I think that it's on USD on FTX. That grid, if I'm not mistaken, made around 120% in 4 hours. It's very comparable because it's been trading in the same, basically with the same leverage. I think even the number of levels was very close, but you see that there is a big difference between 120% and in 4 hours and 6% in 7 hours. Why is that? The reason for that is that for the other grid, which I'm talking now about USD on FTX, I had a P&L per level, so the distance between levels was around half of the percent. So this basically this is 10 times less than that, right? So that once again, that's 0.5% for the USD on FTX and 0.05%, so 10 times less on this instrument. So you see the results are strikingly different, right? So basically that grid made 120%, this grid made just 6%. So what we should conclude here is that most probably running a too tight a grid is not a good idea, because despite it trading a lot, I mean very frequently, the amount it's making on each trade is minuscule, and you would be better off running a looser grid than this. So probably if I had there, here grids on every other level, so not on each level, but every second level, the results would be strikingly better. Having said that, there is another thing to notice why also, so the problem or the issue with their very too tight grids is not only with their small P&L percentage between the levels, but also in relatively higher risk and relatively higher losses on unrealized P&L. Because what I'm talking about, if you look here, my realized P&L is actually much higher than my total P&L at the moment. So it's around almost 12%, right? So I mean, it's still not 120%, but it's 2 times more than my realized P&L. Why that? Is that because in an unrealized P&L, almost half of my realized P&L was eaten by unrealized P&L. What does this unrealized P&L represent? You see there that the neutral position is here. So here, when the price is here, I don't have any position. And as the price moved lower, I was buying. I have this position, a long position, which is underwater. So it was bought at an average price somewhere here, I think, and the price is here. So just with this price movement, I've lost half of my P&L that I made in those 7 hours. Why is that? Is that because when the price traveled this very short distance, basically here, I had a lot of levels, and then my position increased a lot. So if I had here, I don't know, maybe how many levels here of positions I have, maybe something like 10 or 11 levels with orders executed, and my position is from 10 or 11 levels. If I had only 2 or 3 levels instead of 11 here, my position would have been 3 times smaller, hence unrealized P&L 3 times less. You get the point, right? So I wouldn't have lost half of the P&L to the unrealized. So again, too tight a grid is not a very good idea. It's not a good idea. It's not optimal for maximizing your potential P&L because you both get small P&Ls of each iteration, and they compound very slowly, and you get an additional higher risk of running into high unrealized P&L or losses when your position increases, when the price approaches edges of the grid range or goes out of the grid. And the only thing that's worth noting here, besides what I've been talking before, is that what this grid is very good at is getting you trading volume. I'm not gonna lie, one of the reasons I'm running this grid, or running the grid in such a way, besides being able to get you this educational video and show you there the tightest grid there could be theoretically, is that probably most of you know that we are running now trading contest with OKX, and they're here, they're traders with most volume gonna win prizes. So humbly participating in this trading contest myself. And what this grid is really good at is getting me trading volume. So each order here is around 350 USDT. So if I close 1,251 order times 350, so that grid traded around 440,000 USDT in those 7 hours. So almost 500,000 in 7 hours. I mean, not bad, right? So just one grid with just, I think here I have around, let me guess, around 700 or 800 bucks locked. So 700 or 800 bucks locked at relatively modest leverage of 20x would give you such an instrument, a possibility to get a trading volume of around 500,000 in 7 hours. I mean, whether you're trying to participate in some kind of trading contest, or you are trying to maximize your trading volume to get to a higher tier in exchange and get a rebate, that's one of the ways to go, right? If your volume is good enough and you just need some additional volume to get into a higher tier, maybe that would take you from to a lower fees, or even from fee to a rebate. That's one of the ways to go. Okay, and last but not least, let's compare all of them talking about before. Let's look at the couple of algos I'm running right now and just compare them. Look, I'm running on basically here. Let's look at those two. I'm running almost in parallel, right? They were launched pretty much at the same time. On OKX, I'm running a grid on XS USDT and on SHIB USDT. On SHIB USDT, you've just looked at it, right? So it's a very tight grid. It's a very, very tight grid, I would say, all right? And it made 1,200 trades, and its APY is around 715%. Okay, not bad. But now let's look at this one. I mean, this has made just around 145 trades, but the APY is pretty much the same, even though it's out of the range, and it's been out of range for quite some time. I mean, let's see, 15 minutes. Yeah, it's been out of the range for most of the time. Actually, it had been running, so maybe half of the time it had been out, maybe even more. So it had been running, instead of really 7 hours, it had been running maybe for 3.5 hours. Of course, there is a smaller amount of grid levels here. I think I have 50, right? And here is 21. It's 2 times less, but still, I mean, it made 10 times less trades than this one, and it has a higher profitability, right? So it has made maybe 14% here, even if you discounted that it has 2 times less levels. I mean, given that it traded half of the time, you see that this grid probably is, or this instrument, or the setup on this instrument is better. So either the volatility here is much higher, or there's something else going on. Yep, average penalty level, as you can see here, is around 4 times higher than in my previous grid. So this grid is, so to say, 4 times smoother, right? So there is a grid order every 4 price steps instead of basically every 1 price step, something like that. So there is in the same range. There is 4 times less orders here on XS than on SHIB USDT, and that shows. Look, the APY is still higher, even though it's been sitting out of range for most of the grid's life. Okay, That concludes it. Once again, we've looked at the very tight grid. First, we learned that you can actually place in some instrument grid on every price level, which would theoretically give you a lot of trades. But we also learned, and a lot of trading volume hence, but we also learned that that's not necessarily the optimal way to run the grid, because the profitability might not be optimal and you get a lot of risk when the price runs out of your grid. Okay, thank you for watching. Maybe at some future point in time, I'm gonna record a video on a different type of grid, or very loose grid. I'll just have to find the right instrument, so there will be some meaningful amount of trades there, and we'll see what will be going on there. Okay, just last, but the real last, the real last thing is, as the opposite to this grid, you might be looking at the, one of the, I'll just tell you a story. One of the KuCoin exchange, they also have grid bots built in, and they have kind of leaderboards, so you can see there the grids that been running on KuCoin, the parameters that has been making there that were having the highest profitability in the last couple of days. Of course, I mean, they're running like thousands of grids on all possible combinations, so sometimes it's very interesting. It's not very representative, it's not very really real, but it's interesting. So one of the highest ever performing grids that I've seen there on KuCoin was a grid on SHIB USDT. So the guy was running a grid basically with just, I don't know, maybe 5 levels, but the thing is that between those levels, they were around maybe 30 to 35%. So so you can imagine that, right? So he had an order every 30% of the price change. And as you can guess, it has been a very interesting time. That was May of last year. If you remember, that's when the market peaked last time, and the altcoins peaked there, and the SHIB peaked, and there was a lot of volatility there. And that grid has been running for him for a couple of days, and the profitability was outrageous. I mean, it was out of this world. It was around, I don't know, 30,000% or something like that. Of course, that was APY, but he's made maybe 3,000% in those 3 days. I mean, there is some crazy amount, just unbelievable amount. Of course, that's not something you can really easily replicate, but it just shows you the opposite pole, so to say, of grid. So this is the same instrument, SHIB USDT. That's a very tight grid. It's like very tight. It's 0.05% of price difference between issue levels. And the same instrument, the guy ran a grid with 30% between levels. And given that there was the right time and there was this kind of volatility, he's made a crazy amount of money of that. So that's kind of gives you the whole universe, like, so from right to left, that's where what the universe of possibilities is. And their question, or the goal for us trading grids always is to find that optimal level between very tight and very loose grid to maximize profitability. Okay, more on that in separate videos. Thank you for watching.